Welcome to the Just Be Nice Project podcast with me, Josh Reed Jones, discussing all things powerful positive impact, finding out how you can remove barriers to opportunity for others through insightful and hopefully interesting conversations covering honest, diverse, and sometimes neglected areas of discussion. We are, as always, seeking to create extraordinary positive change in the world by helping you make ordinary positive change as we help you help others. You've got through the intro, now hang in there for the good stuff, strap yourself in, turn it up, and as always, just be nice as we roll the show. Welcome to the Just Be Nice Project podcast. As we record this today, we respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay respect to their elders, past and present. You're here with me, Josh Reed Jones, he, him, and today I'm catching up with youth worker, rapper, father, environmentalist, husband, and all-round legend, Nadav Zisin, he, him. How you doing, Dubs? Thanks for joining me today, bro.
What's up, Josh? How you going, mate? I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure. I figure we just can sort of dive straight into it. So, how do you end up sitting in front of me as a rapping, youth working community man with a couple of beautiful kids and a few entrepreneurial endeavors under your belt? What brought you from growing up in very close to where we are right now to the boss man who's just sitting here right now killing it?
The boss man. Well. Hey, look, just before we get there, I will like to say, because I am born and raised in St Kilda and respecting the Wurundjeri people as well, I'd like to acknowledge and respect the Bunwurrung people as well, yeah. So, big ups to the Yalukit Willem clan of the Bunwurrung. I guess the boss man, I don't feel like such a boss man, but I do feel like a bit of a team player. You know, it's been an exciting journey. I'm a youth worker by trade. I do feel young at heart. I'm working amongst so many young people, so I feel like a teenager often. But I'm a man now, so it's like changing those hats as a father. It's been an exciting journey the last 5 years, that's for sure.
You're a youth worker now, and you grew up in the area, and you're a youth worker in the area. Did youth workers have an impact on your life growing up in a way that sort of you model what you do now on at all?
I'm not sure if it's what I model what I do now on, but it's definitely had, like, you know, growing up, being involved in different services myself, it's definitely had an impact on my life, a huge impact, and I guess it's guided me and led me almost as it started subconsciously, but now I'm conscious of it, that it's had a huge impact on my life. You know, some of the youth workers were, you know, huge role models in my life, and part of my family. Also my sports coaches and things like that became part of my family, and that's really helped me understand what a huge impact those figures can have on your life, and inspired me to do what I do. As I look back on memories as a young person growing up, some of the strongest and vivid memories I have that really impacted my life were coming from, you know, obviously, yeah, my mum, which was great, and my dad at times, but, you know, my lacrosse coaches and my youth workers helped really steer and guide my direction.
I suppose to follow on from that, we see like at-risk kids in the paper a lot. What do people need to know about marginalised communities that they might not be aware of when they're only getting sort of the low light reel online? They're not getting the highlights. They're not getting the real experience. You get the one or two people who sort of stand up and say, hey, I made it out and I had some adversity and I did this stuff. And then you get the guys in the paper that like, oh, look, this place is full of rat bags. What's the experience like for these at-risk kids?
I think that it's really easy to hear a story or to read the news and to see something and to really judge it quite quickly on its surface. But I think what I've learned is that there's a reason for everything. You know, everything that happens, there's a reason for it. I mean, sometimes bad things just happen, and there's no reason for that. But what I'm more talking about is a young person's behaviour comes from something, whether it's impacted from their upbringing years and years ago, or if it's something that happened that day. But there's a reason for it. There's a reason why we behave a certain way. So need to take a step back before we're too quick to judge with some things, I think. Yeah.
I was having a discussion with someone about this sort of thing a little while ago, and their sort of area of care that they really cared about or were passionate about was around animal welfare. And because they were talking about, well, why would you help these kids are beyond help, these people, like, they don't care, they don't want any help, they're just running around destroying stuff. And I'd heard this person previously talk about, like, rescue dogs. And I was like, well, when I walk into the house and the dog freaks out, it's barking, it's running around like, oh, you're a tall dude wearing a hat. Obviously something with a tall guy in a hat happened, and so the dog freaks out if it sees guys in hats, or if you've got a broomstick, it'll just freak out, and it's such a shame for the dog. And I was kind of saying, you cut so much slack to this animal who's been through a traumatic experience, but for these kids who get their back up about certain things, or who then turn into adults who get their back up about certain things, who are unable to participate freely in society because of these hang-ups and these things that have happened and their concerns. And where are we missing the story? What are people not hearing about that's happening all the time? Because we've been in the flats. From the outside, these, the commission homes just look like big concrete boxes. But inside, there's like a whole wealth of experience of things that people sort of think are relegated to third world countries and slums in other places that aren't in the middle of affluent suburbs, say in Melbourne. What are some of the key things that are missing? Is it parental supervision? Is it responsible parenting? Is it there's too many other negative influences around drugs and alcohol, or there's not enough support, or there's not enough long-term engagement? Or
look, I think it can be all those things, and it's really difficult to kind of narrow it down to one. You can't really narrow it down to one thing. But from my experience, I feel, and from speaking to a colleague of mine about this in depth, because we've both we've come ourselves from a background of like low socioeconomic environments and growing up in public housing and commission housing and things like that. We've often asked ourselves that question: why is it that we've been able to develop that resilience and have that ability to get through difficult situations when others, our peers and other young people we work with now, simply don't have that resilience or can't overcome those similar challenges to what we were faced with. And I mean, look, it's a difficult question to answer, but I think what it comes down to, and it's not just coming down to one thing, as I said, but the overarching thing for me is love. And support. And my friend said it. He said, like I'd go out and I'd be with all the hustlers, and they'd be doing their thing, and we'd be getting in fights and doing illegal activities and things like that, and I would always have in the back of my mind the idea that I've got to go home and to answer to someone, and when I do go home, I'm going to go home to a mother that really loves me, or a parent figure that really loves me and cares about me, and having that over your shoulder to know that there's that support when you get back. A lot of young people that I know don't have that love, so they're out there doing those same things. They're out there doing criminal activity and getting down to pretty bad business, and then they're going home to that as well, and so they're constantly surrounded by that. And I think having just a little bit of support can really ripple and can build. Shout out to Adele, your mum. Big shout out to Adele. She beautiful woman, and obviously like a great support to you and your siblings. How important then was your mum growing up in that process? Look, I remember thinking as a kid, as a teenager, there were lots of times where friends of mine were going out and doing some really, really dangerous things, some really risk-taking things. And while I took risks, I did, it was always in the back of my mind that I didn't want to disappoint this person that I loved so much. And it was my mum, and it was also my dad. Like I've had, some difficulties with my dad along the way, but it was all, my dad was also, he was an immigrant to Australia, and he worked hard his whole life, really, really hard. And, I didn't want to disappoint them. I wanted to do the things that I saw my friends doing, and at times I did. But the majority of times, what really pulled me back was that it's like the conscience on your shoulder, yeah? So I think being able to have that, whether it's a brother, a sister, a friend, a coach, a teacher, a parent, it doesn't have to be a parent, but it does have to be a figure that's really prominent in your life, that you respect enough that you don't want to let them down. Because if you've got nothing to lose, it's really easy to feel like you can go out there and throw it all away. But when you feel like you got something to lose, you want to hold on to that. And I think the problem is with a lot of these young people that we work with, they don't have anything to lose. Sadly, they just don't. They don't have those support systems around them that are telling them, hey, you can do this, or you've got this, or here this is, or check this out, look at this, watch this, let me show you this, let me give you this. They don't have any of that. They don't have anything to aspire to. They don't have people around them that have been working necessarily, or that have gone on to do some things that might inspire them. I remember a young guy I used to work with. I said, so what are you thinking? He was probably about 14 at the time, and I was like, so, you're 14, you're not really going to school at all. What do you want to do? And he goes, I just want to be like my uncle. My uncle's on a disability pension, and I'll get to if I can get on a pension, that'd be awesome. I could just go on a disability pension. I don't need to work anymore. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that's what you want to aspire to do. And I'm trying to think to myself, I was thinking that's really messed up. But then I was thinking, why has this kid said that to me? And it's because he doesn't know anybody. Like, he's seen it on TV, maybe other people doing other things, or when he's off to his mate's place, he sees other people working, doing their thing, but it's not his world. Yeah. That's not his world. His world is in the flats where no one else is working and no one else is doing their thing. And I'm just generalizing. There's lots of people in the flats that work and do their thing, but that's his world. His world is that this is my mum, my dad, my uncle, and this and that. They don't do that. And so I don't have anybody to show me the way or just walk that path in front of me.
Yeah, so saying people like us don't do that. People like us do this.
Yeah, this is what we do. That's what I know.
Yeah. And if they don't see a different way, then it's pretty hard to aspire to something you actually have never experienced or seen before.
Absolutely. And I guess that's what we do as youth workers. We hope, and as parents and as members of the community, as people, we hope that we can have positive impact on people. We want to inspire, we want to motivate, we want to do that, and we can do it with little things. We can do it with little things, but it takes time for that to happen. It takes relationships. You need to build that relationship with someone if you want to be an important part of their life.
You got to earn the opportunity to inspire somebody.
That's right.
You can't just walk in and just be like, blah, here's the thing.
Well, I mean, what we're trying to create, I guess, when we're creating these support systems around people is a family, or we call it a community. Yeah, we're creating a community, and a community is made up of family members and teachers and things like that. Not just made up of strangers. That's not what a community is. So you can't expect to be a stranger in someone's life and have an impact, I guess, unless they know you somehow. So if you're like some famous basketball player that comes in and they don't know you directly, you don't have that relationship, but you've got that ability to inspire them because they know who you are, they've seen you, and they know what you're capable of. Yeah. But if you're not that person, and you're just your average bloke that just comes in to a situation, you're going to find it very difficult to make any change with someone unless you develop that foundation, that relationship first. I think that's paramount.
Yeah, the consistency is the big piece, being around and getting them to a place where they can trust you enough to listen to you and be inspired or believe that it's for them and that what you're saying actually is relevant and not just some thing you read off the internet and you've just run into just motivate everybody on the day and then leave again.
100%. I mean, that's with everything, like you were talking about, you used that analogy before about the dog. If I've got a pet, until I develop that trust from that pet is not going to be obedient to me. It's not going to come and nestle under my leg and be a group of strangers. It's not going to come up to me and be my pet, be my dog, be my companion. It takes time to build that up, and that's with human beings too. Yeah, that it's an instinctual behavior that we want to have social connections. We thrive for that. So if we are in a situation where we have someone showing us love consistently, or compassion consistently, support consistently, then naturally we're going to thrive in that situation, and we're going to want more of that, and we're going to give that to others.
Yeah. How has being a father changed your perspectives on the work that you do, and love and opportunity for kids? And how do you, as a parent and someone who's aware of these things and the need for community, how do you build that around your life and your kids as well, so that they're getting the best of all of those things?
The biggest thing, like the biggest impact becoming a father has had on my work.
So you're tired all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing. Yeah, absolutely. The second biggest thing is, like, I guess, like, I've always been pretty, drawn to social work. You become an empathetic and quite a sympathetic person, and empathy is something that's kind of comes quite naturally to me, I guess.
A big softie.
I'm a big softie. Big softie. But when you have kids and you watch a little baby grow from such a small little human, and you can see what a huge impact you have on this person's life. And then when I'm walking to work and I'm seeing these junkies on the street, and I'm thinking, man, you were a baby once. You were a little baby. Did you have a mum and dad that cared for you the same way I care for my little bubba? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you were left crying with no one changing nappy for 3 days. No one went when you were just crying and crying and crying, and you didn't get the love, you didn't get the hugs that my kid get. I never looked at people like that before. I had empathy, and I sort of like, I felt, I said to you before, there's always a reason for something. Like, there's a reason why this person has these addictions or these feelings, that they need that to make them feel good, whether it's drugs or gambling or earning and making money or being successful, if that's your vice. But whatever your vice is, it comes from something. It comes from a lack of something. As a parent, you can really learn, and you can see what it takes to grow a baby. And there's so many things, and it's hard, and it makes you think as well. Made me think, wow, sometimes it's hopeless.
Yeah.
It's how can I fill that void? But then, that's on a bad day. But then on good days, you can see how that consistency can really pay off. And when little things that happen, like, I guess for me, I'm lucky. I've been doing this work for a long time now, probably over 12, 15 years, been involved in some families' lives, and to be able to be such a big part of that person's life, to watch them grow, you can really start to see the impact. But then on another level, I've had interactions with young people for a year. Like, I've only known them for a year, but I've watched within that year of being surrounded by positive energy and people that have really cared for them and given them the support that they need. Not that person thinks they want, but really looking at that young person going, okay, well, they've said that this is an issue, and how can we fulfill that? Watching them grow and come out of their shelf, and just from not even making eye contact with you to being able to make eye contact, not able to engage in a conversation, to be able to articulate how they're feeling, and being able to be touched, not cowering away from you when you just put your arm around their shoulder and something like that. They feel like, wow, that they want that, they crave for that, and I think that's a really special thing to be able to see.
Do you think people understand that there are kids that don't get their nappies changed for 3 days, that lie there and cry until they pass out, and they don't eat all the time? And that when we tell the story at 18 months old of this kid that is growing up on the floor, on a mattress with just rubbish everywhere, and they're not getting that attention. And when we tell the story at 18 months old, it's like a heartbreaker, and people have their hearts broken, and they feel for them and they want to contribute. But then that person does become a 20-year-old. And that we have like this, like in community in general, an attitude of like, but once you're grown up, sort it out.
Yeah.
And that we kind of go, yeah, it's tragic at 5 when you haven't had breakfast your entire life, but you're 20 now, you should sort it out, instead of saying, yeah, hey, you're homeless. Instead of it just being an option, like if you and I ended up homeless tomorrow, it's like, this is your best option in life. That's why you're there. If you had a better option, or you perceived a better option, you'd take that. But that we kind of chop people off in our like level of community level sympathy or empathy by just saying you're grown up now, sorted out, and not taking into account that, well, what would you be like if you didn't eat breakfast for 7 years, if you never got a cuddle, if no one ever told you were a good person, if you never read a book, or you only read a couple of terrible books when you were younger or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's absolutely right. It's like, so see bloke out on the street, he's homeless. You have the thought, well, why don't you just get up and get a job? It's like, I can't go and get a job. I don't have a place to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't have a place to sleep. I don't have food in my stomach. So we understand, like there's that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, like, food, shelter, they're the first things you need. If you don't have someone given, it's hard for people to imagine that have always had that. Like, it's just a given for them. It's a given that they've got a roof over their head. The concept of not even having that, it's just not. It's not something that enters their mind. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me about, I love this guy. He's a great guy. He's grown up in a family, a really supportive family, and grown up in a family home, and both his parents are accountants. And, he's trying to give me some financial advice around, like, what is the best thing to do with the money you're saving. Now that idea of owning a home and things like that, it's not really the best way to invest your money. Maybe it's better to invest in shares, because the idea of owning your own home, it can be an expensive one, and that sort of thing. And is that the best option for you? And I said to him, for me it is. For me, that's my dream. I want to own a home, because I've never grown up owning a home. I've moved to 15, 16 different places as a kid growing up. Every year we had to move house. So for me, that's important, to own a home. You say that now, but you never had to move around as a kid. Yeah. So that idea for you of owning your own home, that was a given. Yeah. So now you can sit back and go, okay, well, I got the family house and I got this house. I don't need to own another home now. I can invest my money in other ways. So for me, my reality is very different to his reality. So those basic needs are all from, it depends on your perspective and how you're looking at it.
It's very difficult to identify opportunities that you've always had. And I find that when we talk to people, say, what do you think are opportunities that people maybe come from sort of resource-rich environments? And they say the same stuff invariably, like, education, getting a job. And I guess from our point of view, we're saying things like, shoes are an opportunity. Now, you only know that if you didn't have shoes for like 10 days at some point. And then you're like, oh man, I recognize that. Yeah. Hugs are an opportunity. But you only recognize that if you've not been hugged. And people from resource-rich environments who never get hugs, they recognize that. They go, well, it'd be nice if my mum and dad gave me a hug,
read a book.
Getting read a book is an opportunity.
I work with 16, 17-year-old guys that can't read. And it's like, man, why can't you read? Well, my parents couldn't read. Yeah. So they never read books to me when I was a kid. I never grew up having a book read to me, so I didn't understand that concept. So when I was 5 and the government told my parents I have to go to school now, and I went into a school environment, I'd never really seen a book or opened a book before, and now I'm hit with letters for the first time, and everyone else has already been read books since they were 1, and I'm 5, and I'm so far behind, and I'm embarrassed now. So I'm going to sit it up the back, and I'm not going to pay attention because it's all too overwhelming for me. And now I'm 7, and everyone else is reading by themselves, and I still can't read. So I'm just going to pretend now. Or maybe they think I've got a learning difficulty, so they're just going to,
stream me out into the learning difficulty.
Yeah, and that's how it happens, But it's easy to just say, oh, well, they could teach themselves or they could do this. But there's some fundamental reasons why it's a lot harder for them than it is for others.
Everyone's not starting from the same spot. There's no equality of opportunity in communities like that, or when people are experiencing those things.
Yeah, and it's hard for people to get that. We're down in St Kilda at the moment, but I work up in Paran, and I'm speaking to people that work in Paran. They travel down from different areas, and they know Chapel Street, and they've got no idea about the other world that's just behind their shop front, that there's the commission housing there. That's almost third world. You've got people defecating in the staircase on the way up. You've got people urinating all over the front doors of other people's houses and stuff because they can't get in because they've lost their keys or their parents won't let them into the house or things like that. And it's an awful place.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why they're coming out and they're angry because they're surrounded by this whole other world that they're not part of.
And scared too. Some of the toughest kids from around the way, they get scared, they posture up, they head first into everything because of really it's like from a place of fear. And if I start a fight with you, you can't just not like me for no reason. So like that way I can walk around and be like I'm in control of the situation. And
and it's all relative. So like if you're in an environment where you're in an education setting, it's human instinct to want to thrive in your environment and be the best, and you start to become competitive and you want to learn more and you want to become good at your studies and you want to get the best results. But if you're from the streets and you want to be the best in your environment, no one's going to give you credit for how much you know about this subject. They're going to give you credit about how tough you are, what sort of risks you can take and how cool you can show everybody you are. So that's what way of competing. That's your game that you're playing.
It's hard when like the stuff that makes you cool as a kid and a teenager is absolutely not the stuff that makes you cool as an adult. You see that kind of like acting up, being the big dog and all that sort of stuff. That gets a bit tired when you're 20 and you're in the workforce. No one cares about how clever you are at talking back. You talk about the environment that they're growing up in, and as well as at-risk youth, environmental issues are something that you're also passionate about, that you do a lot of work around. I suppose when we're talking about environmental impact, do you consider things like the social ramifications of environmental, say, conservation, or when we talk about environment, do you consider that including safe, beautiful spaces for people, as well as making sure we don't sort of ruin the planet? And do you have any thoughts or tips, I guess, on how to bring all of that together?
Look, it's a really tough one because until people care enough about themselves, they're not going to care about the environment. For me, I'm at a level, and I think a lot of people around in Australia are at a level where we're privileged enough where we can start to think about caring for the environment, and it's a really important one. But if we're thinking about the environment as a whole, we're talking about the world, and while we're here really trying to recycle and do the best we can in our own backyard, in other countries they're still so disadvantaged in economically that they're not able to even think about what their impact is like on the environment. So
absolutely,
it can be a bit disheartening sometimes, but at the same time I think it's really important to keep on, and to try educate and show people different ways of doing things. What I see a lot of in low socioeconomic environments is the lack of care for that sort of thing, like that, not really caring about that aspect of their environment. Like a lot of the young people talk about their place like, this is a rubbish place, like this is a tip, I don't care, and they'll throw their rubbish around.
Mm-hmm.
So before we set up an activity, we'll say, come on guys, let's all clean up and let's do a big pickup, because this is our home, this is our community, this is our place, and let's make this a nice place. And you do that enough times that all of a sudden it becomes part of the activity or part of the thing we do.
Yep.
And when you start to see the kids just taking that initiative and doing it their own, you start to see the impact of practice and role modeling can have, and that's important, because obviously, like, every little bit counts. But I think the open, you're talking about open spaces and how, and you're talking about more from a like government infrastructure perspective of how we're dealing with our open spaces and what we do with it.
Well, I think you got stuff going on at the eco centre, and you're always taking care of, got a compost bin, and you're doing those things as well. And when we talk about environment or environmentalism and things like that, I think people think of those traditional, try not to use too much plastic or no plastic, do those sorts of things. But how much of an impact is also a kind of social, almost like urban planning type effect on encouraging people? Because if a clean space is one that encourages people to keep it clean, what's the first step? Do you teach people plastic's bad, or do you create a beautiful space so they always put plastic in the right bin and then take it from there?
Josh, I've become a bit of a pessimist in this space. We don't line our bins with plastic at home. Yeah. We don't line our bins with plastic. We try and all sort of wet waste, like food waste and things like that, we compost, and we really try and limit that, and we recycle. And then I take all our waste out to the rubbish areas, and I just see all our neighbours, like I live in a block of 60 people and everyone else is just like putting like all their recycling in plastic bags, in the wrong bins, in this, and I'm just like, we're trying so hard but no one else is doing anything. So it's really disheartening. So I'm a pessimist. I think it needs to come from the government. I think the government needs to regulate producers around what sort of packaging they're using for their products, and it needs to come from the top, because unless everybody's on point and working together, which is really difficult in a transient city. We live in a city where people are coming from all over the world and all over the country and all over the state to visit these areas. They don't care about it as if it's their own community that they've grown up in. So we need to force them, like if supermarkets stop giving plastic bags, people will bring their own shopping bags. They'll have to,
or just pants will have huge pockets in them.
That's it.
Cargo pants will be back here. Everyone will be stuffing milk in their pants and walking out with it.
Yeah, so I totally get that. Look, it'd be great to make a nice environment so people care more about it, so they will keep it clean. But I think we don't have time for that. You know? I don't think we got time for that. I think stop selling things that everything's wrapped in plastic, and we won't have a plastic issue.
Yep. yeah, for sure. Rapping. Yeah. Discuss, man. Tell us about it. People won't know, but I'll make sure I play a little clip. We'll splice a little something in there. But how important is hip hop culture to you? And I don't know, like the youth that you deal with now. I know, like growing up for us, it was a big deal. And what do you think it is about hip hop culture that resonates with low SES people like us as kids? What are maybe some of your favourite experiences, rappers, things like that? Messages that you come across as well.
Yeah, I guess I was always drawn to hip hop as a culture, and as a music form. I love rapping and I love hip hop, and I've really associated with it, with the people that are drawn to it. A lot of my friends, we grew up breakdancing, rapping, graffiti writing, and all the various elements of hip hop were quite deeply ingrained in my regular activities as a kid. I guess like that's really helped me with my youth work as well. Hip hop has come from the streets, so hip hop is a culture that was born from struggle and from expression and from community as well. So like, hip hop is a culture that depends on community to help it thrive. It provides a platform for expression and competitiveness as well, which are all elements that in an urban environment you can take and you can use, and you can challenge people with it, you can challenge yourself with it, and you can express yourself artistically in so many forms, whether it is graffiti writing and turning that into an artwork, or rapping and poetry and turning that into music, or DJing and making people party and dance. I think that there's a part for all people to grab onto and to enjoy that. So for me, definitely hip hop's been a huge part of my life, and the underlying essence of it is what can really draw young people into an environment as well. They really hang on to it. Whether they like the music or not, there's always a component of it that I think people are going to relate to. Yeah. And it's,
And you're a killer on the mic. People they don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I started rapping when I was like 12, 13, and these kids just don't know.
They don't know. They're going to get an education. We'll play some stuff. Even on top of that, you're a kung fuian. Kung fuwa. What do you call it when you do kung fu? What's the name of a kung fuian in
Shaolin soldier?
Man, I've been on the end of some of your front kicks and spinning back fists, and they suck. How do you see in your life, how is combat sports like an avenue to this confidence and discipline and finding your way and finding a place? Because obviously, we've spent a lot of time around that sort of environment as well, and seen the very positive effects. Doesn't always get that rap out in the community, but
yeah. Look, I think for me, it's given me so much. Like I give so much thanks to my Sifl Nick. And
shout out Nick.
Yeah, shout out Sifl Nick and the Boxing Goon. For the empowerment it's given me, the strength, confidence, and everything that's given me. I've always been a really physical person. So for me, through my hip hop, my music, my breakdancing, my rap, I'm a vocal person, I'm a physical person. So I've really moved in that direction. And then as a teenager with any feelings of anger or frustration, that's been my outlet. So I've been able to find that and funnel that, and that's been my outlet through sports, through lacrosse, through kung fu. Kung fu's really helped me because the stronger and the more capable I've gotten in a particular area of my practice, the more I realize, wow, this is really amazing stuff, but it can be really dangerous to use, and I'm not gonna use this for evil. I'm only gonna use it for good.
Not going out and just handing out random beatdowns for no reason.
Well, you realize how dangerous it is. Like, I hear about these kids fighting, and they're like, I got in a fight, and bang, 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 and I'm like, man, like, I got in like a few fights when I was a kid. Like, I got one punch, and I lost 6 teeth in one punch. Like, how are you guys coming out of these fights so unscathed? And it's not always the case. There's often kids that get one punch and they're dead.
Yeah.
Grown men, grown women, one punch, dead.
Yeah.
So we really need to take it seriously. Like, fighting can be really fatal, and it's dangerous. Our hands can be dangerous. Weapons also really dangerous. But the more we can learn why they're dangerous and how to control that and how to control that fire, I think it's a powerful thing. So I've got young people I work with. In the past, they've gone out fighting all the time, and they're quite aggressive. I'm not sure if you can break it down to just a male or a female thing. I know plenty of young girls that are just as violent and aggressive. But I think generally speaking, it's a male kind of thing to go out and to want to fight. To feel that, and I think it's quite a natural instinct. As you growing up as a teenager, you want to challenge yourself physically, and you want to see what it's like to fight or to feel hit. There's lots of people out there that just like that feeling. So to be able to provide that in a safe environment, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Learn how to do this on the pads. Learn how to do it on a bag, so you don't go and do it on someone's head.
I think it's also humbling as well, having also seen Sifl and knowing that I probably have about 30 kilos on him, and he would whip me in a heartbeat.
Well, it's cool, isn't it, to be able to look at someone and go, hey, they don't look like a dangerous person, but they can hold it down.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to look at that and to think, wow, I don't, I can be I'm a smaller kind of person, or I'm a bit leaner. I'm not huge and muscly like that, but I can protect myself and I can look after myself. And he's definitely someone that can do that.
Yeah. Yes, he can.
Yeah.
How do you recognize opportunities, like in your own life, and take advantage of them as they come up?
Wow, I think that it's knowing what you want. It's a lot harder than it sounds to know what you want. I still, I'm always changing what I want, but I think by having an idea of where you want to head to and what your goals are and what you want to achieve, when something pops up that aligns with that, you're more inclined to see it, to know it's there. If you don't know what you want, you don't have any goals that you've set for yourself, when these opportunities come up around you, you miss them because you don't know that that's an opportunity to get you where you want to go. That's one of the most difficult things in my work with young people, is trying to help them goal set, because they don't have those aspirations. But once they do, it's like that manifesting something. People say, I manifest this to happen. Well, I don't know if you actually made that happen, but what you did was that you knew what you want, and then all of a sudden that opportunity appeared. They were always there. It's just now that you know that that's where you're heading, you can grab onto that and you can work with that. But if you don't know that that's where you're heading, then that bus or that tram going in that direction, you're not going to jump on it. Because there was no reason to.
Brilliant.
Does that make sense?
Totally, man. That's a fantastic philosophy for identifying opportunity, and I think more people should definitely take that on board, have a vision, and then the opportunities make sense. Or the correct opportunities.
The correct opportunities. Yeah.
Speaking of opportunities and, a life of moving house a lot and doing these things, but, having some success as a lacrosse player and big sexy rapper and all these things. Can you and we spoke about this earlier, but can you speak about a version of your life where we take it for granted that you worked hard, that you're a hard worker, that you have some aptitudes and you've done these things and you've taken the opportunities. But can you speak about a version of your life where it's not about your hard work, it's about the doors that opened and the people that were around you? And if you look at it like that, what does that look like? Where did you get those shots? Where were you lucky to have fork in the road and you got the good one? And that's how, instead of being one of the people that maybe has ended up in prison or unfortunately passed away, you're this, legend here today.
Thanks, Josh. The thing that comes up straight away is a conversation I had with one of my best mates growing up. It was there was always a crew of us, we were all young guys from the streets, and we were all sort of hanging out together, and they were always hanging out on the weekends and doing their thing, and then I was off and I was labouring for my dad. My dad was a builder. He started off as a bricklayer, and then he was a handyman, worked for real estate agents, and I used to go off with him on the weekends, and I used to hand him tools, and ever since I was 10 years old, 11 years old, I was there handing him tools, getting the thing from the van and passing him this, and helping him out and taking this over there and doing all those things. And I hated it as a kid. I was like, man, why have I always got to, weekends come and all these friends of mine get to go off and I have to work? Looking back on it, it set me up with so many skills, like, getting up early in the morning, getting forced to get up early in the morning. I wasn't getting, I might get $20 for the whole day of work, but it was $20.
Yeah.
My mates weren't getting anything. And then, like, I remember coming back to my friends one day and I was like, man, you guys never got any money. You guys don't work. You guys don't do anything. And my mate looks at me and he's like, man, I don't have a dad. My dad died. You've got a dad who's giving you work. You're getting up every day, going to work with your dad. If it wasn't for your dad, you wouldn't have a job and you wouldn't have this money.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, I'm working real hard. Here I am, like I'm busting my ass, cleaning bricks, scraping cement off bricks for like 8-10 hours for the whole day, and then I get my $20. And here I am thinking, man, I'm working so hard while these other kids aren't doing shit. Why do I have to go and buy them a cheeseburger from Macca's? And why do I have to be the one, like, But then I'm thinking, man, like, they would too if they could.
Yeah.
They don't have that dad that's going to give them that chance to do that.
And if you were just asked to do it, you wouldn't do it either. Like, he's dragging your ass to work every day.
That's right. It's not just someone that's come and say, hey, do you want to come and clean some bricks for a whole day? It's like, no, thank you. I'd rather stay at home and do this. I had someone that said, hey, this is what we're doing today. And this is what you're doing today. And this is how we do it. And he showed me how to do it. And it was just, that was what I knew. That was my life. And it gave me that work ethic that I've kept with me my whole life of working really hard, and then you get compensated for your hard work. I was taught that. I was taught that if I bust my ass and I get up and I do this is what I'm going to get at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it pushed me.
And that sort of ties into the recognizing opportunities, because when you see, instead of looking for opportunities to not do work, you look at opportunities that come up, because I understand the value of putting in the work now to reap the benefit later. So thanks, Nachman. Well done. Yeah. It's always good to have your balls busted a little bit as a kid and learn those hard lessons.
Yeah, I didn't see it, when I was doing it, and it was hard work when I was doing it. But on reflection, you can appreciate it, and you can go, well, it gave me all those skills now that I can take with me through life.
So, like that epiphanous moment where you get the whole, but you got a dad and I don't, and that's why you got a job. What barriers to sort of success and happiness and opportunity and achievement and goal setting do you see that you feel like most people are unaware of, like you were unaware of that opportunity? What things are in the way where people are sitting in a chair and saying, well, dude, just sort it out, because we're working hard?
Oh, man. I mean, look, the obvious ones is like your gender, the color of your skin, your physical ability. I mean, your name. Like, my name, Nadav. Like, I was lucky I had my dad that gave me jobs, because I'll tell you what, like, I put my resumes in everywhere. Nadav never got a call back. For no one. Tom Smith, whatever, like, you're going to get a call back. So don't look at someone else and go, hey, man, why don't you just go get a job? Because, sometimes they could just go get a job, but other times it's not so easy.
Yeah.
So there's lots of barriers in place, and, just making assumptions about those sorts of things can be really difficult.
So what advice would you give to someone in being able to remove barriers and being able to help people and be more understanding and provide more opportunities for others?
Look, if you really want to help, then you got to be patient, and you got to think to yourself, what is it that's going to help this kid? You know, from the outside, like this kid needs a new pair of shoes or whatever, or needs some new clothes. Like, that's nice. Let's give this kid a new pair of shoes. Let's give him some clothes. Or, you know, he really needs some food. Let's give him some food. They're all great, because they need those things. You know, like, people need those things to be able to do that next thing. You know, whether it's apply for a job or something like that. But we need to set up systems. You know, there needs to be systems in place to help these kids. You know? And not just kids, adults too.
Yeah.
You know, these kids have adults around them that need help, because it's generational. So you help this kid and then they go home to this awful situation. We need to set up a system that is helping that situation as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complex issue. It's a complex question. What are you going to do to help this kid? Every situation is going to be different.
Patience is a great starting point.
But I think patience, yeah.
Commitment to long-term instead of focusing on short-term anythings is such a huge piece, because it's so much easier to get momentum, funding, interest, engagement from the helpers in short-term interventions.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to make those changes, generational disadvantage changes, things that deal with like the entrenched, you know, difficulties that get worse over time when they become adults. Like, oh, it's going to take a long time to fix this adult who is the main, you know, person in this child's life. Trying to help the child while leaving that person there unhelped and skeptical is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
I think patience is a fantastic starting point, and understanding that, you know, you can't just walk in with a pithy Instagram quote and change someone's life on the spot. That you've got to put the time in, and you've got to have that patience to stick in and fund and support those kinds of initiatives.
Yeah, and you know, be able to let go a little bit as well. So if someone loosen up. If you want to give someone an opportunity and you want to give them a go, and they take that opportunity, they give it a go, they might fail the first time.
Yeah.
You know, they might not get it, and they might not achieve what you wanted them to achieve. And it's not about what you want and what you wanted them to achieve.
Yeah.
You wanted to help that person, so help them. Give them another go. You know, they might be 25 years old, and you think, oh, this is a 25-year-old person. They should be really competent. If I give them this opportunity, they should be able to take that opportunity and do this with it. It might not be the case.
Yeah.
They might have tried the best way they could, but there's a lot of other factors that influenced why they didn't quite get it that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they might need a second chance. They might need a third chance. You might need to ask yourself the question, why is it they couldn't do that?
Create those possibilities for them to live into instead of these metrics to live up to all the time, so there isn't like a fail point like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
For people.
Yeah, try to be a bit more realistic with what it is you're wanting from that person, because while you, like, you know, for me, the idea of getting up every morning and going to work is like what I'm used to. You take someone that hasn't worked for years or forever, and you give them a job, and then all of a sudden they come into that situation and they're late to work, or they don't roll up the next day. You know, they might have done 2 days, and they haven't done 2 days ever.
It's 2 more days than they've ever done, yeah.
Yeah, and so they don't turn up on that third day, and they don't know that you're supposed to, you know, call the boss and explain why and give them a reason why. You know, they don't know that. You got to be a bit more patient.
Man, it's again amazing. Nailed that. I think that's spot on.
Well, it goes back to what you were asking before about what do we need to know, like what do we need to expect from people, and it's that, you know, like you can't have expectations, because your idea of what is the way to do things is very different to someone else's, and we're worlds apart. Everyone's worlds apart, because we are living in a really cross-cultural environment where people are coming from all cultures, all demographics, and we're expected to all work together. And we can all work together, but it's about communication. It's about understanding and breaking down those barriers and feeding off our similarities rather than our differences.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of similarities there. We all want the same things. We want We want to look after each other. We want to look after ourselves. We want to look after our family. We want to eat good food. We want to sleep well. We want to feel good. We want to look good. We all want those same things. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're from a, rich family, poor family. We want the same things. Okay. But it's how do we get those things? It's going to be quite different.
So what inspires you then?
Inspires me to do what?
You live a purposeful and rich, loving, impactful life, which is a credit to you. But obviously, there's something that inspire you as well, and have you like so vibrant about all the work that you do and the people in your life.
I guess I try to be really grateful and show gratitude for things. I think that really helps. I try to understand or try to think about where I came from and what I have and what other people have. It's easy to judge, but what my value system's really changed over the years, and what I value is social living. Social living. I think like living together. If we can all work well together, live together, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So I really believe as carers of this planet, as humans, we need to care for that. And to care for that, we need to care for each other. If we don't care for each other, we're going to blow each other up and blow the planet up with it. So we need to look after each other. And that's what drives me, motivates me.
Last few questions. Almost rapid fire.
Cool.
Abs or kebabs?
Abs or kebabs? Definitely abs, mate.
Top 5 rappers?
Oh. Tupac. Nas. Biggie. Chuck Biggie in there. See, I'm old school. I love all the, keep it classic. Yeah. I'll chuck Eminem in there. Amazing. Fifth one. I should chuck someone new school.
No mumbly people, please.
Oh, no. Come on. No, I'm going to keep it old school. Rakim.
Oh, Rakim. Boom. Top 5. You can give a gift to every one of the at-risk youth that you've worked with. What would you give them?
One gift. Is there a budget?
Nah, man.
Is it?
This is a hypothetical gift. You've just been.
A tour around the world. Take them around the world. Show them different countries, how people are living, and open their eyes to new places and new horizons, and take them out of the flats.
Yeah, wonderful. Man, I read this thing actually the other day, and they were talking about taking people out of tenements in urban England, and they took them to Wales. And the guy, the teacher who'd taken them, says, and the kid gets off the bus, and he's like, man, I didn't know my eyes could see so far. Like, he'd never not had buildings in front of him, like tenement buildings.
Yeah.
Never just seen the beach in Wales, or like a beach or like a field at all. And I just think, man, that's such a gift to be able to do that. It's the trip, man. That is a wonderful gift.
Goes back to like what you were talking about, opportunities and what inspires you. And I was lucky enough as a kid that my mum would take me out of the city. She'd take me out camping in nature. So I got to experience that. Yeah. And I always wanted to go back to that. I always wanted to go back to nature. Get out of the city. Get out of the streets. These kids I'm working with in the blocks of flats right near the bay, they don't even go down to the bay. They haven't even been down to the bush. They're Aboriginal kids that have never been to the bush.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's a tragedy.
It's
a beautiful gift. We'll try and work on it and see if we can get them the trips. How do you know if you're doing a good job?
I like people to tell me I'm doing a good job, because it's hard to know by yourself. I put my head down. I just keep on doing it. And it isn't until someone says, hey, Nadav, like, that was great work. So acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I think acknowledgement is key. And I see that with the young people too. I always try and acknowledge them when I can. Let them know that was good. And do it publicly so other people can see that was good and why that was good. Because they don't get that enough.
You can pass a law right now. What do you pass?
This would probably just mess up the whole economy. But I would pass the law that you cannot pay for food or drink, and it's all free.
Boom.
Food and drink is free.
Food and drink for everybody.
Everybody.
Not in plastic.
Not in plastic.
Not in plastic.
Don't package that.
What's your favourite way to just be nice?
my favorite way to just be nice is to look at people not as strangers, but as your brethren, as your community, as your brother or sister. You know, when I look at someone out there, you know, I don't need to be friends with every single person I meet. Well, except my wife does tell me that. Why do you have to speak to every single person you meet? But my favorite thing to just be nice is give people time. You know, give people time, because you never know who you're going to meet, what story you're going to hear, and how that's going to impact your life.
Brilliant, man. Well, look, I can 100% pat you on the back for doing a great job. You are a legend. Inspire me. I couldn't do anything that, you know, I do, and certainly Just Be Nice Project couldn't do what it does without people like yourself and you as a human for many years now, like a decade of just being a great example of a man. And I feel privileged to have you here today and to call you a friend. And man, I'm so proud of you and all the work that you're doing all the time, man. You're a legend. So consider this, you know, a shout out for doing a good job. If anyone wants to find you, say on the grams, keep up to, in case still thinking, get a call up to the SB or whatever.
Look, Doves, DUVZ. Keep that in the back of your mind, because, you know, one day I'm going to make a comeback. As soon as my kids are older, I'm going to ghostwrite all their raps, and my daughter Safira is going to go kill it.
She is going to kill it.
Political, extraordinaire with her raps. Going to change the world. And little Yara, little Jack Sparrow, he's going to be out there too. Not that I've already set their, you know.
But we just keep pushing the mic in their hands, see what happens.
So, you know, if you do want to check out some of my raps, check that one out. MC got him out. Or you can check out the Dove's Rise album.
Dude, it's a privilege and a pleasure. And, I'm sure we'll see you again on here sometime soon, bro. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Josh. It's been a pleasure, man. It's my first podcast ever, but hopefully we do some many more.
Love it, man. Cheers, bro.
Lots of love, man. Peace.
Ciao. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If you did enjoy it, we would really appreciate it if you could share it with others that you think might also enjoy it. Check out the show notes to find out more. Like, subscribe, maybe even give us a rating if it's a good one. Remember that we care. You matter. Have an amazing day. And as always, just be nice.